Hey, hi guys. It's been a long time since I've, been in this channel. Um, I don't even know if I'm gonna post this honestly. I think this is just something for me to have and to look back on because, things happen, people change. This is a story of how I found out my friend was a narcissist. Yeah, let's just dive into the story. So basically, I'm not gonna name any names right now, but the friend that I was friends with, I've known her since freshman year of high school. Um, and I can only remember there being like maybe one conflict with her throughout the whole year. But I guess that was even if we were like, different classes and such, like we would still like occasionally talk and such. We would go to lunch together sometimes, and yeah, like we would still find ways to kind of hang out. Now, I didn't hang out with her to the extent where she hung out with her other friends, which is like going over to her house, having sleepovers, blah blah blah. So we were fairly close, but at first, okay, so going more into the story, the guy that I am dating, he was friends with her first, and they've known each other since middle school, blah blah blah. I didn't like, the guy that I'm dating right now. Like, I didn't like him at first. I know that my friend wanted us to be together, and let's name her Samantha. She was friends with him for some time, blah blah blah, and she wanted us to, be together and such. And me back then, I was a person that like I kept, I guess, getting rejected. And it was to the point where I just, didn't focus on having crushes. I didn't focus on having relationships because it was just like I was tired of it. I was tired of always having to chase after someone and such, and it was boring. So I started focusing on myself, focusing on my friends, being happy, living a happy life. At first, didn't like him. So fast forward to graduation, to after I got into college, then I started. College is really, especially because of COVID, it was really lonely. And that's something that just, like it it happened to me. It might happen to other people, but for me, it's impossible for me to really function with always being lonely. I did ask, my boyfriend now, back when we were friends, like to, oh, can you come to McDonald's with me? Can you do this with me? And yeah, he said yes, and we hung out. It's nice. Got to know him more, and things were going okay. Now, going deeper into the sense of like this whole how we got into dating and such is because Samantha always wanted us to be together. So he was interested in me first, and he would ask her like, oh, like blah blah blah, what move should I do, because he didn't want things to move too fast. Me, I was not in a particular like mindset of like, I want to date people. If someone's interested in me, like I'm gonna try my best to, like, no, I wasn't in that because I didn't want relationships. For me, I really thought that I wasn't good to be in a relationship because I was like I feel like I had problems within myself, and I was like, I don't think being in a relationship is going to make it better. I feel uncomfortable with PDA. I don't want to, like, it's nice saying good morning, good night to like someone, but like for me back then it was like so draining. Like, I did not want to put effort in relationships, which is why I didn't want them in general. But he started to like me, I guess, and we started to hang out more, so he was asking her for advice, blah blah blah. And then he told me like, oh, I want you to know my intentions right now before this friendship and everything, blah blah blah, got all solved. And I was like, you know what, in my mind I'm like, you know what, Amy, you should give it a try. You should give it a try. Because I've been lonely. I haven't been feeling the best, so I'm just like, let me try one more time with a guy to have a relationship to see if it works out, all of that. And at first, when I agreed to, the talking stage, I was like, ugh, I don't really like calling it that. But day by day, started to grow attraction to him. And I didn't know if I should tell him that, because I was, in my mind, I feel like I took a long time. So I was thinking, oh, like, what if he doesn't like me back? All of that. And that's when I told Samantha, and I was like, hey, like, I don't know if you like, and she was like, go tell him, go tell him. Like, I'm sure, like, so I had a dream, and that's when I asked him out. because he told me he wasn't going to ask me out, just in the case of like he didn't want to rush things, and he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable with that, because I told him at a slow pace, which I was really thankful that he did. We start going out. Everything was fine. And there was conflicts that me and him faced, problems, and there's times where we didn't talk to each other, um, and it was just like problems within our relationship, and it you probably shouldn't always go to your friends for these problems, which is why like there's some minor problems that happened that I never told my friends, and it was just between me and him. But there was this huge problem that happened, and we didn't talk for like a full day, and I was telling Samantha about it, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, like he's just dumb, like, he can be a little dumb sometimes." See, I really love my boyfriend, but he sometimes can be oblivious to a lot of things, and he can word things really. He's really bad with words, is what I've been told about him since the very beginning. He said it, Samantha said it, like, so I understand that, but it was for me. It was just the fact that he didn't want to. He just didn't talk to me, and so that was a huge problem that I had. And like no matter how I tried to explain it to him, he didn't really change the way that he was. And I'm not saying change for me, change for me. I just wanted him to be. You have to be able to communicate in order to have a relationship. Is what one of the biggest things. I know me. I like to run away from my problems, so that's how relationships end for me a lot of the times. So I wanted it to work, so I was like, communicate. So we got in a call with Samantha, blah blah blah. We got it all solved. But now Samantha's like the problem, I think, from the very beginning, and I will take full responsibility for this, is that I told Samantha everything about me and like my boyfriend's relationship. I told everything, like what happened, all the details. Well, not everything, but like certain situations that happened, and that was on me. I take full responsibility for that. And maybe me telling her everything made her feel entitled in a way of me having to tell her everything that happens, every problem that we have, because now she thinks that like she's always going to come to me for problems, the problems that they have in relationships. So she has to tell me everything. That's personally what I thought. Moving on, we're doing great. Me and him are doing great. Nice time. But there's times where it was a party of someone that I knew, and my boyfriend ended up telling me like, "Oh yeah, Samantha and her friend are going to sleep over at my house." And I was like, "Oh, like, okay." And like in my thoughts is like, I don't mind him hanging out with girls. That's something that my boyfriend does, and maybe some of you ladies will find it a little concerning. Maybe you're a little uncomfortable with that, and I totally understand. Me, I have, I guess, past trauma with people telling me I'm too controlling, even though in the end I've never been controlling. So it was kind of me trying to, even if I felt uncomfortable with it, I didn't speak up, because in my past relationships, people would tell me like, "Oh, he even if he gives her a back hug, they're just friends. Like, why are you getting jealous? Like, it's bad." And I kept that to myself, because it's just something I don't tell that to everyone. It's just something that I keep to myself. Like, and to me, it felt uncomfortable to me that girls were sleeping over at his house. I don't give a fuck. They've been friends for a long time. I don't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, they're different genders, and I fucking trust them. That's the thing that she had a problem with. I trust both of them. I trust all three of them who are sleeping over. He sleeps over at theirs. They sleep over at his. Like, they're not sleeping in the same bed. I'm pretty sure that's what he's told me. But they're not sleeping in the same bed. I trust them. But it's just weird. When you're in a relationship, it doesn't matter. It does not fucking matter if the two people who are sleeping over, a man and a woman, it doesn't fucking matter. Because it doesn't matter how long their friendship has been, because it's just respect. There just has to be a boundary, and a level of respect to not be sleeping over at your, even if it's your best friend, if it's someone. And I hope that you ladies can understand with what I'm saying with this, and even men, because I literally beat myself up so much for this, for the way that I was feeling, because in my mind I kept trying to like overcome it, and like I was like, they're friends, like I have to understand they're best friends, they're best friends, they're best friends, like, yeah. And even if he hung out with them, I just, my parents don't let me. I wouldn't say they're strict, but there's a level of things that they won't let me do, which includes sleepovers. They're always worried about me, and that's something that, like, I don't blame them for. Of course, you're gonna be worried about me. I'm your child. They would not let me sleep over at his house. They would not let me sleep over at their house. Like, Samantha's house, it's just hard because while they're hanging out, while all these girls are hanging out with my boyfriend, even if I'm friends with them, it just hurt back then because I'm like, they're able to sleep over at my boyfriend's house. My boyfriend's able to sleep over at my friend's house, but I'm not able to do that. And it sucks. So it was just tearing me apart. I remember I told my coworkers about it and yeah, had their opinions on it. And they told me that what I was feeling was valid. I even told Samantha's friend who was also sleeping over how I felt, and she was like, okay, I won't bring it up again. And I was like, thank you. Because she had nothing to do with it. Even when I explained it to her, she was like, yeah, I don't care if he sleeps over at my house or if I sleep over at his. Like, if that's on you, that's on you. Like, there's no hard feelings on it. I was like, thank you. Moving forward, I keep all these bottled things. I never tell him because I don't like confronting. I don't like communication because I usually run from my fucking problems. So that's really bad. Come another day, like recently, I think it happened last month. Yeah, last month, maybe? Or the beginning of this month. I don't know. A sleepover happens again. Like on a Friday, apparently. And all of that. I felt comfortable again. It just happened again. It's just the fact that, like, you don't, at the end of the day, you're it's not like you're FaceTiming your boyfriend when he's hanging out with them. You're just kind of waiting for that update text, like, oh, we're doing this, because like I have no idea what goes on when they're hanging out or when they're having a sleepover. I have no idea what goes on, and that's one of the smallest, not well, it was one of the concerns that I had. It was one of the concerns that I had. And I was like, they will literally go from hanging out and then like, oh, he has to cut his hair because they were doing a bet. And I'm like, how, whoa, how the fuck does this happen? And it's just like the transition of him being just like a friend of one of your friends, and then you're dating him and such. So you care about him, you care about his feelings and all of that. So I don't know. It didn't feel right to me. And once again, I tried bottling it up. And it really got so bad that I would cry. Between the months when I thought about it, it would get me so upset and I would cry about it. The reason why I didn't tell Samantha, I did tell her friend about it. Her friend understood. Like way back then when it first happened, I told her friend. I didn't tell Samantha because personally to me, I don't talk with Samantha every day. I felt that we were drifting apart because we didn't, like, it's not like we hung out all the time. When I tried to hang out, she couldn't hang out. She didn't have money. She didn't have a job. She's relying on her parents. That's on her. So I'm like, okay, we're drifting apart. That's okay. I have friends who are able to hang out, who have money, who have a job. Yeah, yada yada. So to me, I did, like, the only reason why I told her friend was because her friend works with me. I'm like, okay, perfect timing to tell her how I feel. And it wasn't like a thing of, I'm feeling this way, you should agree with me. Like, I was just explaining how I felt, and it was really bothering me. So I didn't tell Samantha about it. And even when I told her friend, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I feel uncomfortable with like the genders. The only reason why I was uncomfortable back then, that I thought I made myself believe, was because I was not able to do that, which was not the full truth that I finally figured out months after. And so I was just like, this is not her problem. This is a relationship problem. It's between me and my boyfriend. Has nothing to do with her, even if, because the fact of the matter is that he could have sleepovers with her. He could have sleepovers with his other friends as well, like his other girlfriends, whatever. So I'm just thinking, this is not about her. This is a problem between me and him that I need to talk to him about. And I told my coworkers again about what happened. I was like, I think that I'm just afraid of admitting that I don't want him to have sleepovers with other girls because it makes me uncomfortable. I'm his girlfriend. My friends agreed with me. And when I talked about that, Samantha and her friend, I didn't make them look bad. I did not make them look bad for one fucking second. Because this whole thing was around him. I was talking about him. Samantha and her friend were merely just like, how do I say this? Like, the second lead of the fucking movie. Or the fucking K-drama. Like, they were just friends. And I understand that. That's why I wasn't like, oh yeah. Like, what if she kisses? Like, no. It was never like that. Okay, so I'm very sorry about the audio because of the mic. It's somehow not connecting. I apologize for that. But moving on to, like, the thing. So that was my main concern. I ended up talking to him about it. I was crying. And he was just telling me that he understands and that. But back then as well, I told him that I would sleep over at my guy's friend's house, or they would sleep over at my house. And it wasn't to make him jealous in any way. I just wanted to see what he would say, just so I know, like, okay, if he doesn't feel uncomfortable, then
then I can speak up finally about me being uncomfortable. They didn't say anything much. So he told me that day when I told him everything, he was telling me that he also didn't like the idea of other guy friends going at my house and all of that. Now, this is the rising action of this, because we're getting to the climax. So doing all of that, and we get it solved. I'm like, yes, finally, we get it. We got this thing solved. Like, wow, it didn't take so long to get it solved. And I just felt really relieved. I felt happy. I was able to tell him everything because he's never judged me. He's always been there for me. And I was like, good. Love this relationship. And it was going good for a while. But the thing that really pissed me off was that he ended up telling Samantha about it. Now, people can take it different ways of like, oh, you don't want to tell Samantha because you actually hate her, like all of that. Like, no. So he ended up telling her, like, oh yeah, I can't do sleepovers anymore. He feels uncomfortable with it. And in my mind, I'm like, why the fuck did you tell her? Because if we're going off and he agreed with me that this was between our relationship, why did he feel the need to tell her? It just really pissed me off. I told my friends about it. It pissed them off that he thought, yeah, my best friend deserves to know that I can't have sleepovers with her because blah, blah, blah. You did not have to go all out and tell them that. Personally, for me, if he told that to me, like, oh, yeah, I feel comfortable with that, and my guy friends, like, I would tell them, hey, I just can't have sleepovers anymore. I'd find another way to tell them. Not that hard to create another excuse. Like, it really isn't. And I feel like even if you tell the other person, yeah, my girlfriend doesn't really feel comfortable with that, not saying that you're gonna do something or I'm gonna do something, she just thinks that there's a boundary that there should be. If someone told that to me, if my friends told me that, I'd be like, okay, it's okay. Like, we don't have to. It's not like the world's going to end. I understand because that's a fucking boundary. You're in a relationship. It's understandable, and I just feel like you should be understanding. Now, these claims that I'm gonna start saying, like her response to it, comes through my boyfriend. So, like I said, he words things wrong. That's why I wanted to talk to her at the end, because he told me, and these are all claims that he has said, so if anything is just off and such, it's because he probably worded it wrong. It didn't come through me. Like, I was not the one that talked to her, basically. He told me she really wanted to talk to me about it, but he also told me, knowing her, she wasn't going to talk to me about it. So I'm like, okay, then what's the problem? Because I don't have a problem with her. I've said this from the beginning. Never had a problem with Samantha, okay? I was just talking about this situation that you need to put a boundary. And so she was basically saying how, oh, like, well, she obviously has, like, a problem with me. She starts feeling entitled. She kind of sounds like a narcissist because she made this whole situation about herself because her friend that I told her, and I told her friend, and I talked to her friend face to face, there was never a problem with them. Her friend understood that. Samantha didn't get the memo for some reason and tried to make it about herself. And the reason why I'm going more aggressive with this is because I literally fucking apologized to Samantha. I apologize. I did all of this. I put my pride down on the floor. I took off my anger just so she wouldn't block me, just so she could talk to me, just so she wouldn't think, oh, you're accusing me of this, you're accusing me of that. Like, I put everything on the table. I put everything on the table to be able to communicate with her because, bitch, I know how she's like. And I did everything to save our friendship. I was like, let's talk about it, like all of this. Like, I did everything. I put all my things aside just so she could understand me in a point of view. I talked to her softly and gently. instead of yelling at her, getting aggressive with her, or accusing her and be like, you did this. I didn't. I explained how I felt. And she made it about herself. One of the things that pissed me off is she's like, I'm not mad at like the sleepover thing anymore. I'm just upset at how it was handled. I fucking handled it, dude. I fucking handled it. Like, I'm sorry, but what do you mean how it was handled? Because from my knowledge, and this is my claims, there's always two sides of the story. But from my knowledge, I handled it. I talked with my boyfriend. I talked with him. We talked it out. The solution was okay. It was him who opened his mouth and told her, and it created this whole thing. Because if he didn't, now that she feels uncomfortable for some fucking reason, because I always said that I never had a problem with her, she starts saying, okay, so one of my boyfriend had this other lady friend. Her name, let's call her Sandy. So Sandy lives very far from him, very far from us, but they occasionally see each other from time to time. I'm also friends with Sandy as well, and we talk. So she's basically saying, oh, well, your boyfriend had a crush on Sandy before and actually had attraction to her, so why are you upset? And this is what he's telling me, okay? I have not talked to her first yet. So he said that all of that, and she's like, well, he never had attraction to me, so why aren't you like getting upset with her? Because like them being friends, I'm like, the problem was never being friends. She's not the one having sleepovers with him. And I also told her about the situation before I even told him, and she was like, yeah, I would feel uncomfortable. I would not let my boyfriend sleep over at his lady friend's house. I would not. There's just a boundary. And I also wouldn't sleep over at a guy friend's house because there's a boundary. And I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. See, that's the fucking problem. That was a fucking red flag. That Samantha was like, well, he had attraction to, like, Sandy's not the one sleeping over at his house, though. Is she the one sleeping over? Yeah, they hang out. Yeah, because they're friends. Because the problem was not them hanging out. It was not the problem. It's just like, sleepover. Now, going more into that. It happened, I think, on a Saturday or Sunday, and my boyfriend's basically telling me, okay, yeah, Samantha just texted me, and she's saying like, okay, if she doesn't want to talk to me about it and communicate with me, then I guess I'm already over it. And we started making a joke. We started talking about, yeah, I'm over it. So and to me, it just felt really, I felt offended because I'm like, what do you mean? Sorry, there's cars. But I'm thinking, well, what do you mean you're over it? Do you not care about this friendship? Do you not want to talk it out? Because in my perspective, if she wanted to talk to me and explain why she was upset, because I was never upset with anything. Never upset with anything. I just heard what my boyfriend told me in the span of 3 days or 1 day, and I'm like, okay, well, if she wants to talk to me, she's gonna talk to me, because personally me, I'm vibing, I'm free, like I'm happy. She's the one with the problem, so she's the one with the problem, she'll come to me. So she basically says that. I'm like, what do you mean I don't want to communicate? I've been waiting for her to talk to me because she said she wanted to talk to me. So why isn't she texting me? Why isn't she like all of that? She ended our streaks. She didn't send me anything anymore. So I'm like, why is she saying I don't want to communicate? Why is she saying she's over it? Come fucking talk to me then. Because you're saying that I'm not making the effort when you were the one that wanted to talk. I'm not making any effort because I didn't have a problem with it. Because I didn't feel uncomfortable because you were never the problem. And she just made it about herself. And yeah, maybe narcissist is a really long stretch. Really long stretch. And all of this, my friends would always tell me like, oh yeah, don't trust her, like all of this. And I would always be with her because she has been through me. She has known my deepest secrets. She has been there. And that's why I was so desperate not desperate, but so like dedicated to the friendship that I wanted to save it. Because I've cut people off before. No doubt about it, cut people off. I don't have attachments or anything, but with her, I always felt attached because we were friends for a long time. I've told her everything. With that being said, I'm like, why the fuck is she saying all of this shit when she never fucking texted me? So I text her and I'm like, answer the phone. I tried FaceTiming her. She doesn't answer the phone. And And I'm like, why isn't she? And so I'm hearing from my boyfriend that she put LMAO. In my eyes, and maybe that was something that, like, you know, when you text something, it's different from when you actually, like, the intention and all of that. So she put LMAO, like, she's calling me right now, like, and in my eyes, when he told me that, I was thinking, oh, like, she thinks this is all a joke. Like, she's just done with me. She's like, fuck it, like, because there's times where I'm like, oh, haha, there's this someone that wants to, like, let's say, like, an ex, like, haha, he's trying to text me, like, he thinks he could get me back. Like, that's what the vibe that I was thinking was coming from her. And then apparently it's a misunderstanding on her part, on both of our parts. So then again, she's doing all of this, and she doesn't answer my calls at all. And then she's like, oh yeah, I'm babysitting. And then I'm like telling her all of this because in my this is why you need to get the source from the source. You need to talk and communicate, because when you don't hear it from the actual person, there's always a miscommunication that happens. And so basically, I give her the text. I wrote like a whole paragraph on like all of this. I set the truth. And then she replies and she's like, I'm actually babysitting, but by the looks of your text, because I'm basically going all out. My thoughts is that she doesn't want to talk to me. She thinks this friendship is all over. So I laid everything out on the table. I did not know she was babysitting anything. So when she was like, oh yeah, I'm babysitting, but the thoughts you already thought about this. You already thought about not being friends or whatever. And I'm like, okay, first of all, answer the fucking phone. Call me another day, but apparently you're over it. So, and by all of this, I was crying because that was my friend. You know, that was one of my best friends. And I stepped drifting off. I've drifted off with middle school friends, but there's always times where we talk with each other, where we hang out. I make time for them. They make time for me. I have a lot of friends, guys. And I'm not saying that like, like I'm popular. Like, no, I just have a lot of friends that I have like bonds with. And, things happen where you don't have time, but as long as you make time for them, it's okay. Like, just because you drift off doesn't mean like they fucking hate you. So I'm thinking like, okay, like that's my friend. Like, even if we're drifting off or if we don't hang out a lot, like I still, like, I want to get things right. I don't want her to go to other people and tell them, yeah, she doesn't feel comfortable with me. She thinks I'm going to sleep with her boyfriend. Like, you just don't fucking understand. And I'm giving her all this, which her friend, when I told her about this as well, the day before, like, I even told my boyfriend about how I felt. The day after, because she was working, I went. Told her all of this, and I'm like trying to make hypothetical situations for her. And I'm like, okay, if she was in a relationship with a guy, and then all of that, she's like, and what I'm hearing, that Samantha says, but that's not the same situation. But that's not the same situation. I'm like, what the fuck are you on? That's not the same situation. Like, are you, like, why can't you for once listen to me instead of putting all these things of like, but that actually is not, like, why are you fighting it? Why can't you just sit there and listen to what I have to say? Because I have not, from the first time, I have not told her like, you did this, you did that, like all of that. No, I listened to how she felt. And that's why I put all my pride, all my anger down, and I was like, you know what? My fault. But she never once did that. She was never in the wrong to her. She never said, oh yeah, I'm in the wrong for this. I'm in the wrong for this. She never. And it hurt me. And I don't want to get emotional right now. But it was so, you guys don't understand how frustrating it is to have to explain over and over again, and them still, like, they won't fucking budge because they don't sit back and think, okay, I was in the wrong for this. There's times where I make mistakes to my friends, where I make mistakes in relationships, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, that's my bad. I can admit to my wrongs, but she cannot admit to her wrongs. All this time when she has friends in high school, I know how she is, and I know how she doesn't admit to her wrongs. She felt so entitled to know everything about our relationship, and she said that her and her friend felt blindsided. Even I told her it was never a problem with you. It was never, we're sending texts back and forth. She's just like not budging at all. Not budging at all. And to me, I feel like the best way to overcome a miscommunication, something that happened wrong in a relationship, is to fucking talk about it. You can't just be like, yeah, over it. Like, that's That's what middle schoolers do. That's what little kids do. I've known how it is. When you're in middle school, you have a fight with someone, with your best friend, and then the next day you're friends again. You just stop talking about it. Like, you are a grown adult, you're in college, we're both in college, and you don't want to talk about it, and she gets upset at how I handled it. I never talked bad about you. Never. Until now, I never talked bad about you. And and at the end of the day, I poured everything down on the table. I know that I will never regret what I said or what I did, and I know she probably won't regret it, but maybe in the future she'll finally fucking realize, yeah, I did fuck up. Because I knew she was in the wrong, but I wanted to save our friendship, so I blamed it on me. But at this point, this is all her fault. It's not. I told this to every one of my friends, and all of them agreed with me that it was her fault because she's the one that's doing all of this. She made it about herself. She felt entitled to know about things in our relationship. She pointed fingers at everyone else but herself. And it was really like, and the reason why I'm saying this, and maybe she'll be like, oh, but you don't know about this, but you don't, how am I supposed to know if you never fucking talked to me about it? You said you're over it. You said all of this. And then you just don't talk to me. Because I am still here. I am still okay. And if you do want to talk about it, you could always come to me, talk with me, call me, text me. Not even text anymore because you obviously don't see the emotion. I feel like in text it's really upsetting because you can't see the emotion or people's true intentions when they talk. And texting is just different. You don't see it. And in these voice recordings, I'm fucking sobbing, guys. I am sobbing. I'm putting everything down. And I was very vulnerable. And throughout the whole like voice recording, sending messages, my friend Sane and my boyfriend was listening to all of it. And I just don't think that I want to be friends with Samantha or be friends with the friends of Samantha, because it's just like, how are you yourself going to be friends with someone who puts someone through that? She's always going to be thinking about herself. She's always not going to admit that she's in the wrong. I've seen when she gets arguments with her parents and all of that, and there's times where she's in the wrong, but she doesn't think that she's in the wrong. Maybe she'll go to therapy or something, I don't know. But I blocked her on everything, and it's just something that I don't want to be friends with someone constantly thinks about herself and doesn't think about her other friends. She started talking about how she felt hurt that I didn't tell her anything. She started talking about how she felt hurt, that I wouldn't even think about talking about it with her, that I thought that like she would judge me and all that. That was not the truth. If you talked to me, I would have worded it differently, but I had to word it in that sense because I had to put everything down on the table for you to be able to listen to me. Because in your sense, you're over it. But in the sense, it's like, I wanted to tell her it's not your fucking business. That's why, it's not the fact that, oh, I was scared to tell you because I thought you would judge me. No, it was not your fucking business to begin with. That's just it is. But I knew if I told her that, then she would fucking spasm and fucking be like, no, but it is, because I'm your friend. Because in her sense, I'm probably thinking, oh, in her sense, yeah, I'm your best friend, and like this problem and like all of that, you could have come to me and told me, like, no. Are you dating me? No, you're my best friend. And either way with that, like, it's all because we're friends. I feel like the whole thing went down because we're friends. Because if my boyfriend was with another girl and he was sleeping over at other girls' houses and such, she would also feel that same way that I felt. But then I feel like Samantha wouldn't be like, oh, well, like, she could have talked to me about it. Like, no, because you guys don't know each other. The whole tie in this is because I was friends with her. Friends doesn't mean anything because you're not dating me. And I think there was a text where she said, I'm not upset about the sleepover thing anymore. I'm just upset at how you handled it. So in that sense, this is what I'm thinking, because she didn't want to fucking call me. So when she says, I'm not upset about the sleepover thing, so you were upset that how I felt about you guys sleeping over, so you invalidated the way that I felt of like, oh yeah, I want there to be a boundary, I don't want you guys to sleep over, like. And then after that, I was like, okay, so if I told you about the sleepover thing, you would have understood. And she's like, yes. And I'm like, no, but at the beginning, like in my mind, I'm thinking, no, at the beginning you're like, no, I'm not upset about the sleepover thing anymore. So then what are you upset about? I just don't understand. There's just things that like, and that's why there's obviously miscommunication in here. And that's why I wanted to call her. She's over it because she doesn't care about our friendship. I put everything into this. I made myself look wrong when she was in the wrong, and I knew that. Just so she could be able to communicate with me. And then, like, still with, there's just things that you should, there's just boundaries in a relationship, guys. If you're best friends with a guy or a girl in a relationship, blah, blah, opposite gender that are attracted and such, like, even my boyfriend, I'm about to hang out with some of my guy friends, and he tells me, update me, like, text me what you guys are doing, and I'm like, okay. And if my guy friends don't think that way, then I'm not talking to them. But I have a feeling that my boyfriend's still gonna talk to Samantha. I honestly don't give a fuck. I told him before that I don't respect people who are still talking to her because she never apologized. Never apologized. I was the one giving apologies when it wasn't my fault. That's all. And she can't fucking say shit, honestly. She can't say, oh, but like, all of this is not the truth. Like, but you never fucking talked to me. You never wanted to call me. You never, like, just, you followed me off of Instagram. Your friends followed me off of Instagram. I ended up blocking all of them, except my coworker. I'm still weary a little about her. Like, I'm not, like, it's not like I hate her or I'm mad at her. I'm just like, obviously there's still some things like my boyfriend that I'm like upset about. But it's just something that it's gonna take time to have to overcome that and such. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm not talking to her. I feel a lot more happier. And I just want to tell you guys, if you're going through a similar situation where this happens and you're like, well, like, I don't know, like, I want to save this friendship because I'm your best friend. If they don't make the effort, if they're not meeting you halfway and you're doing way more, like, it's not worth it. It really isn't. And a few things to add is that I remember my boyfriend would tell me he was upset because she wouldn't pay for her things. The only reason she would come out of her house sometimes is because he would buy her things, like buy her coffee and such. Listen, it's okay to pay for your friends at sometimes. Not all the time, though. Just common courtesy. Pay for your shit, you know? There's times where I went to Red Robin's. I went to Red Robin's this one time with her and my boyfriend, and she told me she would pay me back. Never paid me. I gave her gifts. You know, I got her a BTS album because I cared about her friendship, and, you know, like, I wanted to get her something nice. And there was times where she would sometimes give me something nice or, like, do something, but she just doesn't have the money. She would be upset at her parents sometimes for not giving her money, but then again, she's in college, she doesn't have a job. I understand that if you're in college, you don't want to get a job, blah, 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 but I was also in college, and I have a job. I was leveling it out. Just don't, we're not in high school anymore. I feel like her personality stayed in high school. When you grow up and you start getting into more things, you're maturing. And I'm not saying I'm fully mature because I'm 18, you know, I'm barely, like, I'm about to turn 19 in June, but, like, I'm not saying I'm all this big and mighty, like, I'm so mature, like, no. At times, like, there is a lot of times where I am mature and I keep things mature, but I feel like I was a lot more immature in high school, and when I started going to college and starting, you know, drifting apart from friends, starting getting away from the drama, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm like this person now, but she will always stay with her personality. She'll always be like that. She has not changed. I'm not trying to, and I'm also not trying to use this video to be like, okay, yeah, she's a bad fucking person and all that. Like, I do believe that there is good in her. Obviously, she's been there for me. I told her secret. She's always validated the way that I felt. But it fucking hurt me, guys. Like, so much. It hurt me so much that she just was over it and didn't want to talk to me about it. Like, it fucking hurt that you want to communicate and they don't want to talk. And I'm thankful for my boyfriend that actually, like, he's not like that. He actually communicates. He's not just over it. He tells me a lot of the times that he gets annoyed when she's like, oh, I'm over it, like, I don't want to talk about it anymore, because that's their friendship. That's literally their friendship. She tells something to him, he expresses how he felt, and she invalidates the way that he feels. Like that one time where she called him a beta, and then, like, he didn't like that, and then she was like, well, your other friends, if your friend said that, like, no, if his friend said that, he wouldn't be okay with it either. It's just like some things that are just like, listen to your friends. And I get fuck men, like all of that, like the whole thing that she has. And I also have that thing as well, but like, come on. You guys are friends. Come on. You know, there's a lot of other things and components that go into her that kind of got me upset, but I always scrape them off because I'm like, yeah, not everyone's life is easy. Not everyone knows what situation you're in. That's just how she's always going to be. No matter how I try to break it to her, she's not budging. And people who are friends with her, literally every single time she's not friends with someone and starts magically being friends with them again, it's because she's over it. I feel like she's a person who just throws away the problems, doesn't talk about it, and then the next day she's like, "Oh, we're friends again," like, or like, "Oh, we're friends after a month, like of not talking." Like, I'm finally not mad about it. Like, why can you not just communicate? I've never been in a problem with her like that, so I don't know how it is. But fuck, man, all the friends that she has like dropped and everything, just because she's over and doesn't want to communicate and all of that, and just instantly goes aggressive. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you if you are in high school and like to get some chisme, some drama. You know, maybe if I talk to some of my other friends about her, I'll tell them about the situation. But I'm not going to go out of my way and be like, fuck her, she's a bitch, she's a thought. Like, no, we're not in high school, we're not little kids. Acknowledge the situation, move on. I used to be sad, but then again, guys, you're in a situation like this, I understand that the bond is like, yeah, but if you're inside and your gut is telling you that this is a bad thing, that this is a red flag, get out of it. It's not worth it. It really is not worth it. If you want to cry, you can cry, bro. It's a friendship. It's a bond that you have for a long time. It's okay to cry. But if all of your friends are telling you that this is wrong, listen to them. Listen to your other friends, guys. But sorry, I had a burp. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. It's been such a long time since I done a story time.